Morning to everyone, the few I can see and the most who I can't see. This is a new arrangement with some purpose, I'm sure, but gives me a little disadvantage. I have no eye contact with anybody. First, let me begin by greeting and wishing Business Standard for completing 50 full years of quality publication. A business newspaper, very business-like, and has substantive, let's say, invited articles and also their own team putting up very qualitative observations on the economy. I look forward to reading it every morning, so I would be upfront wishing the entire team and Uday Kotak for being supportive of this paper. So it gives immense pleasure for me to be associated with you all today, and good wishes for you to continue this good work. I think the Manthan is talking about the reset and India's role in the new order, new world order, if I recollect the topic. But the new world order is not there yet. It is clearly a Manthan. There is a churn and if anything, not a gentle churn like we churn. The Manthan in India refers to churning the well-set curd to get the soft, smooth, white butter out of it. So it's a beautiful churn. There are excellent references in many languages on the sound, the beautiful sound of this churn. It makes you feel, oh yes, it's dawn. There are, people attempting to get the butter out of this. And it is referred to as a very good churn. Good to the ears, good because the outcome is known and you know what is going to come out is going to be pleasing for all of us. But this churn that we are talking about is going through a good solid churn. And it doesn't give us a musical or a good start to think of. But yes, that is the reality. Oh, thank you. And that's the reality. And in this, I think, like the Samudra Manthan, or unlike the Samudra Manthan, there are no good forces or evil forces. All are forces. Everybody is pulling in from different directions. So the Manthan, as you would perceive in India, is one pulls one side, the other one pulls the other side, so that the churning tool which is used, I don't know the English equivalent of it, it nicely moves 180 one way and another 180 in another way, and therefore there is a systemic way in which it happens. But today I get the feeling, and I'm sure all of you all would agree, the pushes and pulls of this fulcrum is about every way, so it's splashing about. It's not doing that systematic churn that it might come up with the froth first and then the amrit or the makhan. So today the churn is a bit violent, but it's happening. You're not going to ignore it. So about the churn, it's not yet done. You don't have an order yet, you don't have the makhan yet, but you are going to have to participate in it. You can't stand and watch. And I think India, I'm glad to say under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, is conscious that India should be in a reckoning place as this churning is happening and the global reset is happening. And in that, we shall put India's interest first and on the top. So it is not going to be any more India's cliched approach of, okay, non-alignment, we'll have to. I'm not rejecting the concept. I don't want the mandarins of the External Affairs Ministry immediately say, voicing a new foreign policy. No. The point is there are so many different considerations with which India can contribute towards this reset. And in that, I think we are conscious of first giving ourselves the first assumption that it will be India's interest first. And in saying that, what do I actually want to convey? We have to keep our strategic requirements top of the agenda. Your strategic requirements are also very much influenced by the geopolitical location in which you are positioned as a country, where you have no choice. You can't reposition yourself. It's not a jigsaw where you can fit and churn, but even a jigsaw is fairly given to you, and you will find the right piece to position in the right place. We don't have that option. But what certainly we have is 2 or 3 constants or 2 or 3 certainties which are appearing in the skyline. One, the much favored and preferred global approach to issues was through the multilateral institutions. Last nearly 80, 90 years have gone with multilateral institutions contributing somewhat a kind of stability to the world economy, world polity. But today, the multilateral institutions, I wouldn't say today, but in the last 2 decades, you see them increasingly fading away. And every attempt to revive them, every attempt to give them, energize them again, is not having the desired result. So where you have to address issues which affect more than your own country, you have no more forums left which can effectively deliver. Now, therefore, you are constrained, but have to admit that multilateral institutions and their contribution probably is fading away, at least in the near future, till such an attempt is made to revive them with that kind of energy. So we'll leave that for a while. It's not to be happening in the next few years. So how would you go about? It's very clear also, by default and by choice of many other countries as well, bilateralism is now taking the top of the agenda. Is that good or bad is a different story. It is now a reality. It is for India also to understand that bilateralism is, if the fact in before you, it is for us to ramp up our bilateral relationship with very many countries, not just for trade, not just for investment, also for strategic relations. So multilateralism sort of out. I'm still saying with a qualifying word, sort of out. But bilateralism very much your only catalytic tool that you can use. Second, there is no way any country can ignore technology. And the pace at which technology is moving forward, India is very well placed. So when you say global new order, what is India's role? I would think we will be, and much to very many naysayers in this country. Naysayers are in this country abundantly disproportionate to our population. They don't believe in India's own inherent strengths. And therefore it is necessary for us to recall that technology and in matters of technology, India can be leaders on very many aspects of technology. We have proven to the world that when we talk of technology and when we talk of deploying technology, we do it at population scale. And this has been proven. And therefore, in this area, I think India can be leaders, and simultaneously India can extend a helping hand to very many those bilateral friends with whom we want to strengthen our relationship. That would create a new group in its own, the tech group, I would like to believe. And if the global tech group, like the G7s of the world, G77s of the world, and you had all the groups, I would think global technology group with India's, if anything, leadership, or India's team can play a big difference across the world, and that is where India should be steady and clear-minded. So technology is an area which is rapidly changing. Countries want to have it. Countries want to benefit from it. At the same time, the cost of technology is just so big that not every country can even manage having it service them, leave alone advancing in them. So India has to prioritize on investing in technology, investing in people to have that mastery over technology, and it is that which is going to place India in a leadership position in a global order which needs participation of very many countries to set the order in place. The terms are not yet determined. It has to, we're all talking about it. We need to talk about it. And India's leadership, I think, if I take this example of technology, will put us in the high table, at the high table. Similarly, talent is one other thing on which I think I'll play India to its advantage. Talent is something which is so required to get technology going and to have technology be applied to so many different contexts. So is India unique in this? No, because talent is now floating everywhere around, and talent is not confined to a geographical territory or to a sovereign nation. When it comes to talent, as much as I talked about the group on technology, when it comes to talent, they can pool and repool themselves irrespective of sovereign loyalties. And if they can pool themselves irrespective of sovereign loyalties, are you one of the magnets to attract them? You need talent. It is one thing to skill up your people. It is one thing to scale up skills of your people. But do you have the right talent to play that game that you want to play in the global order? We need to attract talent, and we need to be very open-minded about it. We should not feel insecure, thinking that it might take away our people somewhere else. For those things on which we can make a concrete difference, we should first invite talent from wherever. But with talent, it is for your strength that you want to play. I would then think technology, talent. Third, whether we like it or not, global trade is going to be completely reset. The terms and references with which all of us played trade, with some kind of an anchor in the World Trade Organization, is no longer available for you. But does that mean that we cannot trade any longer? Or does that mean that we can trade the way we want? No, we need to have a way in which trade can happen, but in some kind of an orderly fashion. And if that has got to happen, we need to understand how countries and their priorities work. There is no more MFN. I'm sorry, I'm not saying something which is going to be a breaking news. Every country wants to be treated special, and every country wants to be sure that that special treatment that they get is not by default given to everybody else. And if that is the way in which trade is being refashioned, whether the world accepts it or not is a different story. But there are going to be groups which are saying, I have a special relationship with you, I need some things to be done with you gaining and me gaining market access. We will have to go in that route. Your trade has to grow, and your supply chains will have to also be ensured. That's not going to be possible anymore if strict rules of MFN are going to happen without a powerful presence of the WTO. So if WTO is getting weakened or multilateral institutions are not being effective, only the principles guiding everybody is only hampering progress in trade. So we need to have a rethink on MFN and the bilateral arrangements that you do with countries. But bilateral arrangements are going to be the order of the day in terms of trade. And moving on from there is, so what is going to be traded? Is it going to be your usual man-made fibers, or is it going to be just labor-intensive goods from the global south? Is it going to be high technology moving the other way from developed countries? I think every one of this is being shaken up now. It is very clear that when you get into a bilateral trade arrangements, your interest and the interest of your friendly nation with whom you do the trade agreement is going to determine the movement of goods. And the global supply chain is again something where the concentration risks are posing bigger downside risks globally for all aspects of trade. So in order to de-risk yourself from the global concentrations, a lot of movement is happening, but all of us are speculating. Is somebody getting out of one country and moving to one other country? Or are they getting out and saying, I'm going back home? So there is a lot of question even about that. And that is why when we have to talk about India's role, we are very comfortably placed in the sense, in terms of speaking about what has got to be thought through. Global order is not going to be determined like the global north, or by the developed countries. Developed countries need technology and talent. Developed countries have the money to invest, but that is not going to be sufficient for them either. And because of technology, even the fear that movement of physical people is no longer a threat. You can do what you want from where you are. And therefore that even the people and their movements are going to be completely reshaped. We are in the first quarter, just completed the first quarter of the first century in the new millennium. And clearly we are looking at a totally different world coming rather sooner than we can expect. So we can say about our demographic dividend. We can still talk about our middle class, which has the purchasing power. But we still have very many fundamental issues to address. So if the contribution to the global order making is one thing, we have bigger task in our hand to meet the expectations of a growing, aspiring population, the middle class, and those who want to come up to being middle class. So the aspirations of the poorer bulk and the middle class, together with the entrepreneurial skills that our people have, will have to be continuously attended to. There's no way government can say, lots of uncertainties, we need to prioritize our needs and so on. We still will have to improve our fundamental infrastructure. It is not just roads and ports and airports. It's also looking at the connectivity and also making sure at par all regions have equal development. That is why I think it is very creative and out of the box way in which the Prime Minister handles these matters. He will first look at a region which is not developed, you call it a block, you call it a district, and then you take it further down so that all regions develop at par with one another. Our domestic politics can say many things, but reform is something which we will have to continue doing. And there are some basics about reform. Your debt management, your fiscal prudence cannot always be wished away in the name of, no, we have issues, we'll have to print money, we'll have to serve people. Basic discipline, just as in a household, will have to be for an economy. And therefore I would think, if anything, I would seek the partnership of the media in making sure that states feel equally party to this whole call for reforms. It is important for India to perform better, but it is not as though it is doing it in a separate cloud cuckoo land. It is part of India's larger economy, that which takes you forward. And reform, therefore, cannot be just an agenda for the union government. It has to be taken up seriously by every state government. State governments today realize what it is to meet up with industries, to meet up with investors. They spend a lot of time planning for it and carry forward that agenda so that investors feel attracted to go to their states. But I would want a competition among states, a healthy one, to say my economy is far better than the others. Not just I'm giving incentive for investments, but my strength of my economy, the way in which I manage my fiscal, I think that has to further distill down to the states. And once that happens, they will all automatically go down to, a lot more devolution down to the panchayat at the third layer. So, as opening remarks, I don't want to add more, but I think these are very interesting but yet challenging times. I'm glad that we have both in the media and also in businesses leadership which can constantly keep this debate a lot more meaningful, substantive, and energized. I'd like that kind of a relationship with the industry, with policymakers, and with the media, as much as people who get elected into the parliament. This has to happen because India has to make a meaningful contribution to the global reset, as much as continuously make all the efforts to make India move up the ladder, both in terms of per capita income and also in terms of a business destination where talent can move, investors can move in for the global good. We can be the engine of the global growth. Thank you.